Hey everybody, Alex here, Health Hacks Reviewed, coming to you with the topic of CoolSculpting or using cryo for freezing off fat cells. Companies spent a lot of money in marketing over the last few years nationally to try to assert its position as the premier body contouring service modality beyond radio frequency contouring or cavitation devices and beyond LED devices that are using a more photochemical thermal response, or a laser lipo, which has been the premier or main form of inducing lipolysis or body contouring. So with a non-invasive method. Is this really right for your clinic? That's the topic of the video. For those who are just thinking of getting this service or paying for it, this may also be a helpful video for you as well. But I help a lot of practitioners purchasing devices, so I do all the research and reviews for them. I also sell a variety of different equipment in each category. If you have any questions, find me on my website if you need a free consultation and you want to know more about this equipment for your practice. Anyways, is CoolSculpting right for your clinic? I'll let you decide after I run through these 5 points. What is it, 5 points? There we go. 5 points that very few people talk about. I think you'll find it quite refreshing. Number one, so if you don't know, CoolSculpting induces a type of freeze, cryo sort of system or effect where the cells actually are destroyed. So number one, you never want to destroy cells in the body. Obviously, an argument could be made for cancerous cells with apoptosis. Outside of that, you don't want to destroy cells, okay? Number one, if you don't have to, okay, ideally. So this does include some of the radio frequency devices out there, which do actually cause sometimes some slight damage to healthy cells, okay? So you never want to destroy the cells in body contouring. So a person generally has more subcutaneous fat or appear to be fatter or have something that's more noticeable. It's not because they have more fat cells. That is not true. What it is they have the same fat cells as you and I, or anybody for that matter. It's just that each fat cell is more bloated. It's full of stuff, okay? And so they have more built up inside the fat cell, which is causing them to expand. The question is, what is building up and why? Okay, so that's step one with weight management. Right? Things should not be building up in there. But the fact that they are building up is a protective mechanism that your body has in place to maintain homeostasis, okay? It's a good thing. It's packed inside your fat cells that your body's doing that. That's how you gotta look at it. Why are we trying to interrupt that and destroy the cells? There's other ways to release what's in the fat cells without destroying them, okay? So, fat cells exist as a part of the body's structure. Kind of went over that point. All right, next point. CoolSculpting is not hands-free. Okay, it's a big, massive point here because this sort of product category of services can make you very busy and make you a bunch of money, which is great. But then you can really end up taking a lot of your personal time with having to do these sessions, okay, which last a fair amount of the time in the case of CoolSculpting, by the way. It's really not like a 10 or 15 minute process. So you need a lot of your own personal time, manual labor, and it's definitely manual labor. I mean, it's really not too exciting trying to do this. Same thing with radio frequency devices. Those are all hands-on labor. You can't really leave it unattended to a certain extent quite as much as LED devices because it is a little sketchier or a heck of a lot sketchier. Some people get holes in them in some of these rare or bad case scenarios. But the point is, definitely needs to be heavily supervised, okay? So, and that's why it has a certain classification, which is not the same classification based on the safety of LED devices. So in other words, you won't really be able to have an assistant quite as easily do your CoolSculpting sessions unless they're licensed and thoroughly trained. Now, I'm a big fan of the Body Light. It's a LED device that very few people know about because they don't really do any advertising. They do a little bit. Let's put it this way. They do advertising on Groupon, Living Social, other social media types of means. But advertising their product in the way the other LED devices out there do it, they do not really do that so much. So with an LED device in general, or this particular one, you can basically hire a college student or a high school student off Craigslist Basically, you're going to show them how to use Velcro and how to push a button. So, and if you want them to schedule appointments, pick up the phones and say, yes, Jane, we could have you come in at 3 o'clock. Your session time will last 10 to 15 minutes. That's if you're just doing the actual lipolysis or LED session, of course. Generally, you're going to want to put them on a whole body vibration energy machine. Whole body vibration machine afterwards. Could tack on another 10 minutes, FYI. Anyways, bottom line, super easy to do. It's an over-the-counter. All those devices are over-the-counter, so super safe. You don't have to worry about any legal issues having, somebody like that do the sessions. So in other words, what does this have to do with your business? Well, if you want to scale up and start to bring in lots and lots of people, are you going to really treat all those people? Or do you want to kind of exit your business a little bit and have a bunch of assistants just run the whole thing? Okay, you can do that with LED devices in general. Okay, with CoolSculpting, your ability to scale up your business will be a little more challenging and more costly in some respects. Third point, CoolSculpting and some radio cavitation devices can cause uneven lumpiness. Ooh, nobody likes that. Not in a business where it's all about how you look and the results you get and showing your friends and taking before and after pictures. So, you really have to, number one, make sure that you sculpt evenly, which takes a little bit of a learning curve, okay? And then even if you do that, so here's the thing, even if you do that and you think you're pretty darn good at it, there's no way to tell how the client's body is going to process all those dead cells. It's a lot for the body to handle. It's not normal to just have a massive die-off of dead cells. When does that happen? On a daily basis? Never. Okay, unless you're getting massive amounts of chemo, radiation. So how's that client's body going to handle it? Well, it depends on their liver, it depends on their enzymatic resources, it depends on their metabolic profile, et cetera, et cetera. Do you know all that? Did you do all the tests? Are you going to provide them with tons of supportive supplements and additional therapy after? Most people don't do that. So in other words, there is always a chance that some people end up looking lumpy, where some fat cells are removed in some areas and less in others. There's no way to guarantee that doesn't happen. Okay, so then what do you do at that point? Do you feel like being responsible for ending up with these sorts of consequences aesthetically? Are you going to offer them more treatments for free now? What are you going to do in that scenario? Cool. Third point, was there another third point? Anyways, fourth point, CoolSculpting produces fat loss results more slowly than the strongest LED lipo laser device. So in other words, both devices could take off an inch or could take off 2 inches. That's not the point. But the point is efficiency of removing that or reducing the inches, let's just say. The body, again, must work much, much harder to process not only what was in the fat cells that was released, but also digest and process the cellular structures and proteins, dead proteins, okay, from the dead cells. So a CoolSculpting timeline generally could be like a few months before really noticing significant results, okay? It's a fair amount of time. A very high energy LED lipo laser session could give you results in a week. Some cases, 2 days, I have seen. Now generally, for the 1 or 2 day people, a fair amount of that's water, but granted, a lot of water is inside the cells, so it is legit weight reduction to a certain extent. But either way, bottom line, within a week, 2 weeks. In this business, it's all not just about the results, it's all about how fast also you get the results. Because you're trying to upsell them on a package of sessions usually. So it's kind of like, hey, come in for, 2 or 3 reduced treatment, 50% off, 40% off, just to get them in the door. You're going to have to do that. And then what kind of results are you going to get? In what period of time? Oh, yeah, well, I know you're not seeing results yet, but if you just hang in there for a few more weeks, if you just hang in there a little bit longer, do you want to be in that scenario and be the salesperson? Or do you want to get induced lipolysis, microcirculation in the blood and lymphatic vessels, and get results a lot faster? Where suddenly they're saying, oh, I'd like to buy another package. I saw results so quickly. Wow. Or you just simply say, hey, you saw results in a reasonable period of time. Imagine what we could accomplish in a few weeks. Okay, so you don't want to have to upsell that. Not to mention, if you can get results faster, it really does open up the possibilities of you giving away treatments even, or 50, 70, 80% off, because you know confidently just a few treatments will be enough to give them results. Then you start to charge them the big money, okay? Or you start to charge them the packages. They're not going to say no when they saw the results, and of course it didn't cost them that much. It's a very easy sell at that point. But this also brings me to the point of a very high LED laser device and the fact that all other lasers except for one that I found are low energy and will actually take like 10 to 15 sessions before you see anything that's really noticeable or measurable for the most part. So it's the same issue with even some other LED lipo devices. They're sometimes harder sells versus this one that basically you can see results within 2 to 3 sessions many times. Last point, LED lipo lasers can provide additional supportive benefits, health benefits that aid in weight loss. All right, so stickler for grammar there. Okay, so it can provide basically when you send red wavelength and infrared, okay, this device actually has a combination. It can provide induce lymphatic flushing of the vessels. Okay, so it's your lymphatic system that's responsible for detoxing the body or whatever comes out of the fat cells to process it, send it to the elimination organs. So they have a big, big role, major role. Most people's lymphatic systems are back up and sluggish, being overly toxic, sitting around and or sleeping 90% of their life. And that's another major reason. And not exercising enough, so on and so forth. Okay, but you can actually induce and increase that with lasers and or LEDs. They also increase microcirculation. So microcirculation both in the lymphatic vessels as well as 70% of your blood circulatory system is microvessels. And that's also very much responsible for delivering digestive enzymes and other factors to help with processing what's released from the fat cells and providing the energy to burn as well those fat cells. And the reduction of localized and systemic inflammation. Okay? Most people are in some states of chronic inflammation. If a person's really overweight, they usually have a lot of systemic inflammation. It goes hand in hand. It can actually, the more inflammation you have, generally that's also related to potential metabolic syndromes and other risk factors. Okay, that's the main issue with being overweight. It's really the inflammation. Okay, and so you can also aid in reducing weight by reducing inflammation. It has an indirect kind of direct correlation or response. All right. So there's a long track record of studies with infrared and more infrared, I would say, than red wavelength with reducing localized and systemic inflammation. Okay. Cryo, with the way at least it's performed with CoolSculpting in a very highly localized area, doesn't really do that. Now we've all heard of, well, not everybody, but if you've heard of cryotherapy, where you go in and you get a full body cryo, that can have some indirect effects on systemic inflammation, but the method of action is slightly different. And again, it's just kind of a totally different modality than what we're talking about here with a body contouring device. Anyways, those are the 5 points. If anybody has any questions about any one of those or would like to refute or clarify what I'm saying, you can add it in the comments. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. And if you need help figuring out what kind of device, or if you should even go down that path as a clinician or a health practitioner, reach me on healthhacksreviewed.com. Thanks for listening.